Okay, if you're watching a recording, welcome to Noble Warrior. My name is CK Lin. Noble Warriors will interview thought leaders and practitioners about their journey from being a burnout warrior to a noble warrior and reclaim their deep joy and purpose so you can do the same. My next guest is the co-founder of 1-800 Dentist. He is an Amazon and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He's a speaker and an executive coach. His new book, Superbold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. Please welcome Fred Joyal.
Thanks for having me, CK. I'm excited to talk about boldness. It's important for people when they hear super bold. Sometimes they don't hear the D and they think I'm talking about football. So I always remind them, super bold. It's about super boldness.
Yes. I'm an immigrant, so sometimes I lose whatever the last syllable is. Thank you for that enunciation. Very important. I want to actually first bring us back to how you and I met.
Okay.
You and I, we met in person at a polar bear plunge where we submerge ourselves in a frozen lake for 8 minutes straight.
Yes.
So you don't just talk about being bold. You are a biohacker. You test yourself in different ways. So why don't we start there? Have you always been this way, a seeker, someone who pushes himself to expand his comfort level?
I wasn't always, and I think part of it was my shyness, and that affected all of my underconfidence, and it made me critical of all sorts of things, which was not helpful. And I eventually became a person who said, "Why not?" instead of "Why." And it was a big shift for me, including jumping in a lake in the middle of winter. Which seems foolish to the average person. And while you're in there, sometimes it seems a little foolish because I was looking at my watch and my heart rate was just going up and up and up. But then when you climbed out of the water, there was this incredible rush of energy as the body re-energizes the capillaries who have all retreated from this disaster that they're experiencing. Once again, it was, when I say yes, something unusual, unexpected happens more often than not. And it took me a long time to get there. But being here, it's transformed my life more than wealth, more than success. Just being able to just boldly go out into the world and say yes and try new things and meet new people. That's changed everything for me.
So I want to make a parallel comparison to what you're talking about being bold and our experience at the lake. I don't think they're too dissimilar at all. Actually, I think they're very comparable to each other because in the moments when the cold is there, the instinct is to get out, right? Especially when the numbness comes in, especially when, when the heart rate it's there, and then you realize like, oh my God, we were never gonna die, but the idea was flashed in front of in the mind. Our brain is programmed to help us survive. So I think it's very similar at a situation where, let's say, public speaking, right? We're gonna die out of, we're gonna get excommunicated, or getting kicked out, or we're gonna really embarrass ourselves. We're gonna die from shame or whatever the thing. How do you stay in that discomfort, in those micro moments when the brain is going crazy and is saying, get out, get out, get out, get out, whatever you can get out?
So much of your personal growth comes from insights that you have. And one of the key insights is exactly about this, is that the brain reacts to psychological danger the same way it reacts to physical danger. So that feeling in the ice cold water is like, I'm going to die. This has got to stop. I'm way too uncomfortable. That's the same thing that happens to people in areas where they're underconfident. Now, it could be on stage is the most typical ones because people are terrified of public speaking. And they get on stage, their memory disappears, they sweating profusely, their armpits are soaked, a lot of them are trembling, and they almost can't speak. They get tongue tied, but they can't remember what they wanted to say. They radiate that panic discomfort, but it's your body saying there's danger. There's no danger. And you can't stay in it, just like you stay in the water. You say, wow, I stayed in for 2 minutes, I can stay for 5. I thought I could at 30 seconds you say, I gotta get the hell out. Right. At 5 minutes you say, I think I could do 8. It's really bizarre, but it's about, how do you build your boldness muscle? You build it by being uncomfortable, by putting yourself in situations where you say, wow, I actually didn't die. Actually, nothing bad happened unless I decide to call it bad. I mean, I didn't do a great job of speaking, but it's in the wind. I love that, the thing that taught me the most about this thinking and this insight was stand-up comedy, because I did it for a while, but a good friend of mine got me into it, and he made this really important point, which he said, you know what? Whether you kill it on stage or you die, it's in the wind. It's over. And they're going to forget most of what you said. And he said, so stop being attached to the experience of the outcome that you want to measure, and just enjoy the experience of putting yourself out there and trying to make people laugh. And it was a big shift, because I could take that and go to public speaking with prepared material that I didn't have to make people laugh every 30 seconds. And it was easy by comparison. But also I had the insight, like I'm going to feel a certain way, but I can take that discomfort and turn it into energy. And it's just you realize it becomes a choice after a while to embrace the discomfort and say, yeah, it's really not that bad, and I'm kind of getting used to it. And I've done it with people. I've put them on, in my workshops, I put them on stage, and by the third time they say, wow, it's noticeably easier already to be on stage. And I said, yeah, you can't stay in the panic mode when there's no danger. Your brain eventually says, all right, fine.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of gems there. Yeah. So as you were speaking about the nervousness of getting on stage, I recall myself being frozen in front of, I think it was 100 people, delivering a speech for a Toastmaster contest. I just blanked out. I forgot. I know where I wanted to go, but I forgot the segue. So I literally froze there. What it felt like millennium. Like, I literally just, there's silence. And then finally the segue I came up with was, oh, it boggled my mind, and the whole room just like erupted into huge laughter. And then I live, obviously, but it was such a cathartic release. I was able to turn that moment into a teaching moment, a laughter moment for the audience.
It humanized you too, because they admired you for going up on stage, because they don't want to. They are afraid of that. They may want to, but they're terrified of it. So the fact that you're doing it, they already admire you. When something goes wrong, they just say, oh my gosh, he's just like me. Now I would panic if that happened, and I would try to get off the stage or something. I would try to find a way to hide. And you just stay in it and say, yep, my mind's a blank right now. I'm going to think of something interesting to say. If you'll just hang on there. Oh, wait, here comes something. And they'll, as you said, they just laugh. I had a friend of mine, she broke a high heel on stage, which as a woman is like horrifying. The women in the audience were like, oh my gosh. And she looks down at her shoes, kicks them off, and says, I guess I got to start spending more than $30 on shoes. right? Where
That's funny.
instead of making it a horrific moment, she owns them
Yeah.
because she decided to not make it a bad thing. She made it a funny thing, and she delivered the rest of the speech barefoot. And everybody came up after and said, "I can't believe you just laughed that off. You blew my mind when you did that,"
Well,
because she just made a
so
choice.
so my style, we're gonna go to wherever the conversation goes. If I veer off too much, let me know. Okay. This reminds me of why. So Noble Warrior is an expression of who I am. I love Spartan rays, polar bear plunges, plant medicine. I purposefully put myself in discomfort for the sake of my personal growth and development. Toastmaster, public speaking, all these things.
Yeah.
So, so one of my biggest pivot about my personal development is in the area of joy. Only joy is the new mantra that I have, right? And how do I stay in the intensity of whatever situation I'm in, physical, social, psychological intensity, and then just keep repeating back the mantra, only joy, only joy, only joy. And I love that, that you just gave that example of this woman, make a joke out of it, may light up the situation. Can you say a little bit more about, because joy is literally in your name. So
Yes, it
how
is.
do you, what's your relationship with that word joy, and what's your interpretation of that word joy for you?
It's something I learned to embrace because it would happen in moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, like boldness, like choosing to be uncomfortable, there's choices. There's always an either or in life. And so many people say, I'm angry, I can't help it. Well, yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can take 3 breaths, you can shut up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to react. The great quote from Viktor Frankl is that pause between stimulus and reaction is where all the growth happens.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot say anything when you're angry,
Mm-hmm.
and give it time and say what you really want to say. Sometimes it's like an email. You write this angry email, write it, just don't hit send.
Mm-hmm.
See if you want to send it tomorrow. I guarantee you won't want to send it tomorrow. So I started to realize this thing about myself, because I'm on a constant path of self-awareness, is I allow myself to get irritated about little things all over the place. And I thought, the only person suffering from this irritation is me. The
Mm-hmm.
person or the thing who's irritating me, the driver or the person in line or whatever, they don't know or care that they're
Mm-hmm.
irritating me. So I've chosen to be irritated by this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I could choose to say, wow, that's really loud music, or that's, or I can hear this person chewing from 3 tables away, or whatever. and just say, isn't that interesting that I would let that bother me, and I can
Mm-hmm.
choose not to.
So in that moment, what do you say to yourself when you notice, oh, my irritation is flaring up? Someone cut me off, and somebody is smacking their mouth while chewing, or the plane got delayed, whatever the setback is, didn't go according to your plan. What do you do in that moment?
I tell myself that I'm punishing myself by being irritated.
Mm.
I have to come at it from that side. I can't just say, cheer up, Fred. But that allows me to transition to something positive around me, something to be joyful about. It's like, wow, I am in a car doing 70 miles an hour. I'm moving through space. I have 300 horses at my disposal. Whereas 100 years ago, people had one. It's pretty different. And it's just, where does my attention go? If I want to focus on the thing that irritates me, I could stay irritated, or I could say, that guy cut me off, probably in a hurry. I could choose, I could change the meaning of it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that's the easiest thing to do, is say, look, my reaction is an interpretation of, oh,
Mm-hmm.
he's driving like an asshole. We're like,
Mm-hmm.
really? Or is he just not paying attention, or is he in a hurry, or is he about to lose his job? It's like, there's 20 reasons why he could have cut me off. 10 of them are selfish, and 10 of them are, his problem. Why not choose a different one? Since I'm
Mm-hmm.
never going to meet the guy anyway, and all I'm doing is punishing myself by being irritated. I
Mm-hmm.
would like to stop punishing myself. I would
Mm-hmm.
like to feel good. I would like to change the chemical flow in my body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to be arrested, apparently, here. No,
or
no, it's a
rescue or rescue.
rescue. Yeah, right. For punishing myself. I've called an ambulance. I've
There you
punished
go.
myself so much. I need a new colon. You know. So that's my process, and it has made me a calmer, much more patient person.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other thing about being irritable is you're impatient.
Mm-hmm.
They work hand in hand in a negative way. Especially if you're impatient about things completely out of your control, which is what we do a lot of the time. Is like, the plane's not going to leave until the mechanic is happy fixing the plane, and you really don't want to fly in a plane that the mechanic is not ready to let fly.
That's
So
right.
sitting there being impatient is really dumb, and really, self-abuse again. So
So
I've learned it's been amazing to experience that.
So I'm gonna push you a little bit. Okay. So in the moment, those micro aggressions or irritations, when it's little, we can use these mantras, thought pattern interruptions as a way to bring us back to equanimity, centeredness. It's a sign of maturity, right? To be able to lengthen that space between stimulus and response, as you quoted Viktor Frankl earlier. But there are moments where somebody punch you in the face, let's just say, like boom, right? Your body reacts, the defense mechanism goes up, the adrenaline starts going, and and those mantras or breath may not be sufficient during those moments when somebody punch you in the gut, verbally or physically, when that
Yeah.
happened. What do you, or when social anxiety flares up? Because one thing you did mention, a group of people who really appreciate your book are those with social anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So in those moments when the body is going, what can they do to bring themselves back to groundedness and equanimity and neutral centeredness?
I think you need to be able to allow a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You can, there some things that somebody punches you or somebody insults you, you're going to have a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so allow yourself to have the feel the reaction. Just don't externalize the reaction
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. If you
Mm-hmm.
could just, if you can grab just a few seconds and not necessarily do, and say, do I really want to punch this guy back? Do I really want to exchange blows with this person? Because I do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Will I still want to in 10 minutes? And if you can just say, wow, that guy, I'm ready to nail him one. But will I still want to in a minute, in 10 minutes? And sometimes you won't. Sometimes you'll start swinging. And what's important is, after that happens, after you get in the fight, really be keenly aware of how you feel after 10 minutes, a
Mm-hmm.
half an hour, a day later.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ignore how you feel, because you don't feel good about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Don't let yourself, and that's going to inform the next time. We are all flawed individuals stumbling through life, but
Mm-hmm.
we elevate ourselves to a noble warrior by getting control of that, by remembering how it felt to to make that choice, and it didn't feel right. It wasn't who I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the noblest pursuit, is, am I, as much as possible, being who I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being a ball of reactions. and and
Mm-hmm.
and and define who you want to be. If you say, look, I'm the guy that nobody, I stand up to everybody, and I give everybody a piece of my mind, it's like nobody's taking advantage of me. It's like, how does that actually feel,
Mm-hmm.
that you're in that state?
Mm-hmm.
Do it's somehow empowering to you, but actually it's all fear based. You're feeling, you don't feel good about yourself, and so you're trying to empower yourself in some way. You're trying to feel better about yourself, but it's
Was it?
not. You took the wrong direction.
Yeah. So rather than talking about theoretical, because it's easy to talk theoretical, is there any personal stories where you have found, hey, I was, not being confident. I was, leaning into cowardice more, but I want to be more confident. I want to lean into more boldness. And you make it, in that moment, make a decision like, I'm going to change my life. Is there any personal story we can illustrate this point?
There's so much that I do now that I almost as a boldness exercise,
Mm-hmm.
to put myself in discomfort and build my boldness muscle, that it's hard to think of them in recent times, because when I do it and it's a failure, it's like, oh, that was a fail, big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And that ability to sort of savor the failure and say, yeah, it didn't go that well. There's certainly been a number of times where I didn't speak up, and when I really should have, or really wanted to. And uh, the thing that sticks in my mind, and it was years ago, but it sticks in my mind, is I was not able to give my father a eulogy at the funeral,
Mm.
because at the time the Catholic Church wouldn't let anybody speak except the priest and the altar boys, or somebody who was going to read a reading from the New Testament. You couldn't get up and say anything in the church.
Mm.
And today, I would say, yeah, I'm going to read the epistle from St. Louis or something like that. And I would get up and read it. And then I would say what the heck I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to throw me out, try and throw me out. But most of the time, I'm going to get it all out before somebody realizes it. You know why? Because that's the most important thing in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, is to be able to say how I felt about this person.
Mm.
And I watched it's so interesting, because I watched years later, I watched my cousin do exactly that at a Catholic funeral for his mom. He
Mm.
did a reading, and then he went on and talked about his mom. And
Mm.
that's all that anybody remembered from that
Mm.
day. They did not remember whether they the priest blessed them, or that the epistle from St. Paul was meaningful or not. They were all dialed into him saying that. And that experience of not doing that,
Mm.
that informs so many of my actions, because it's like,
Mm.
never, these things happen, and I say, never again. I am
Mm.
never going to be that guy who hesitates, who talks himself out of it, or lets somebody else make me conform. Because most of the time when you conform, somebody else benefits, not you. It's a phenomenal paradox. But most of the rules in life that are not about protecting people are to get you to conform, and you don't benefit at all. And I'm always checking that now.
Mm. I love that. While you're speaking on the Noble Warrior podcast and to an audience of creators and entrepreneurs and rebels, so definitely this is a muscle that we consciously, unconsciously are, cultivating over here. It's really painful At least for me, I can't speak for you, but for me, if I wanted to say something, either one, I chicken out, or two, I didn't have the language to say what I really wanted to say, or three, I say something, but it didn't quite landed the way I wanted to land, and people like turn it the total opposite of my intention.
Yeah.
It's really painful. So, yeah. So I love this message of like leaning in, just say whatever you want to say, and then ask for forgiveness later if the institution doesn't agree with you.
And I've asked for forgiveness. I've said things. I've been in the moment where I say I want to say something, and I say it, and it doesn't come out right, or it doesn't land right.
Mm,
And I'll what I've learned to do, instead of letting it gnaw at me for the rest of my life because I didn't fix it, is right then in the moment I'll say I'm really sorry. I don't know why the hell I said that, but it's not the way I wanted to say it. And I see that, I see your reaction to it, and I don't blame you.
mm,
Forgive me. Let me see. Do you mind if I try to say what I actually meant?
mm,
Um, and it's transformational to do that,
mm,
because it says, I know I'm not perfect. Sometimes I say the wrong things. Sometimes with the best of intentions, I say the wrong things. Sometimes with the worst of intentions, I say the wrong things. Either way, I don't want to let that linger forever with that person, and I don't want to carry it around forever anymore. I want
mm.
to, I want to forgive myself, and I want to ask forgiveness from them.
I love that you're doing the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that's a trained muscle that you have done in so many? Okay, I'll make it personal. So in the beginning, during my own transformational journey, I would kick myself and not saying certain things, and I would think about it for a long time, and maybe a week later, I'm like, I should have said that thing. And these days, obviously it's shorter and shorter, and then through actually the podcast, I'm now able to say what I wanted to say in a much shorter time through training. So I'm curious to know, was it a process for you as well in terms
Oh
of
yeah.
being able to?
We all think that we should know how to interact with people automatically, whereas we get training to get a driver's license, we get training to fly a plane, we get training to do math, right? We don't think we could suddenly do geometry, but we'd come up with Pythagoras's theorem by ourselves. But we think we know all these social skills. It takes practice, just like anything else. When I hesitate and I don't say something, I realize I need to be prepared to say something, and I need to start saying the wrong thing until I say the right thing. And it, just like if you decide you want to start talking to strangers, which is one of the things I recommend to build your boldness muscle, is talk to a stranger every day. The easiest way is to just compliment them. Now,
Mm,
what you're going to do when you start is you're going to be awkward. You're going to be clumsy. You're going to come off weird. But you know what? It's in the wind. It's a stranger. You have no agenda except to compliment them. That's really the key. When you do these kind of things, when you have no agenda, you're not worried about the failure or the success or anything. You're practicing.
mm.
When I'm doing curls, I have no agenda except failure. I am going to curl till I fail. So I build my boldness muscle the same way. I am
Mm.
going to try stuff till I fail and go like, okay, now I know what I need to improve. But
So
just being able
so
to,
let's zoom in on that real quick.
okay,
Do you do so? I love that because especially for the overachievers listening, they may say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to achieve this outcome, get a number or get a smile, whatever the thing is. But what you're saying is not that. What you're saying is you do it for the sake of just doing it. Don't worry about the outcome. You do it for the sake of doing it. Yes?
yes, the if and this is a social skill. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we have to learn this stuff, because especially, let's say you're a real estate broker and you've been told you got to meet 100 people a month. So you're out there going, I got to meet them. They got to know I'm a real estate broker. I got to find out if they're ready to sell the house. I got to find out what the house is. Well, I got to that's what I need to talk to them about. People can smell an agenda on you in about a second and a half. whether you're trying to pick up a woman or you're trying to sell them something or get their contact information or whatever. They can smell it. So abandon it. Make the only outcome you're looking for is connection. When you do that, everything else, it happens magically, because now it's just like I always liken this to being in high school, because high school was such a clumsy, shy, traumatic experience for me. But girls could smell that you were desperate. They could tell. And that's what, when you have an agenda, that's what people are figuring out, is you have something to get from them. When your only goal is to connect with them, maybe your only goal is to make them feel good about themselves. Say, you know, that beard looks great on you. And you'll get so good at doing it. Like when I do it as a drive-by, I say, like, I'm not doing it to start a conversation. I am literally giving a compliment and then I'm gone. And you can see the reaction on people's faces because they just take it in. And you get creative about it, because at first you want to compliment something, like you see an attractive woman, you say, "You're really beautiful." Okay, she hears that a lot.
Yeah.
Compliment her on her shoes, on her handbag. All of a sudden, she spent a lot of time picking those things out. You come up with something else to say. I've evolved it to the, you know, because of course I'm irritated by everything. If I see something weird on somebody that I have a judgment about, I make myself compliment them on that one thing. If I think their purple hair looks ridiculous, I am going to say, that hair is really working for you. It looks amazing. And you know what? It changes my judgment of them. And they clearly have purple hair for a reason. So it makes them feel good. You know, whatever the heck it is. If I think people have way too many tattoos, I'll say that ink looks amazing. And it allows me to get rid of my judgment at the same time as I make them feel better about myself. But this is a life skill. This is
okay.
Practice.
So this is Noble Warrior again. So we talk a lot about warrior spirit.
Yeah.
Right. So that warrior spirit, my interpretation, what you're saying is leaning to your judgment, not let's see, maybe that came out wrong. Let me rephrase.
You don't have to apologize. So I was not hurt by that.
Yeah, not apologizing, just rephrasing. Yeah, refinement, right? Precision. That's what we're about. So, what was I? All right. So whenever you notice your judgment, rather than going with it, you are doing the total opposite, because you notice that's a bias, that's a judgment. So you're taking action as a way to refine, to polish, to hone your own self, so then you can come back to neutrality. Did I interpret what you say correctly?
Yes, because if your goal is connection, we're going to tie this together now. If your goal is connecting and you have a judgment, the insight that you develop is that 98% of the time your judgment is wrong. Okay. And so, because once you get to know anybody, we're all flawed human beings bumbling through life, trying to find our way. And when you can offer something positive to somebody that you had a negative thing about, there's a double healing going on, right? You've elevated them and you fix yourself. Because what I've learned, the more I connect with people, I have met people that I have like 6 judgments about them based on their shirt and their hair and who they're with and everything. And then if I engage them, I'll find out I am wrong about everything. And I've done it so much that I don't trust my drive-by judgments at all. I say, and that's why I want to reverse it, because I've been wrong. My insight is, and they're doing it too. They're having judgments about me. And so I don't have to take on their hostility or rejection or rudeness or anything. They're having a judgment about me that that's based on my hair. It's based on my shoes. It's based on my teeth. Who the heck knows? Maybe my nose seems too big for them, and they hate people with big noses, and they don't even know why. They're doing it too, so I let it go. I don't have to take on their behavior towards me because it's not accurate. If somebody rejects me, I don't have to believe I'm a bad person or an unworthy person. I could just say they don't know me.
So I have a question for you, Fred, and here, because you actually quoted Lao Tzu in your book. I think one of the first lines in the chapter is, I can't remember exactly what the quote is, but
when I let go of who I am,
that's right.
I discover who I can become.
That's right. So I assume you appreciate the yin and the yang of things in life.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So there's times for action. You're obviously very biased towards action. You want to take action. And there are times for stillness, contemplation, surrendering. So can you elucidate for us? Because on the surface, if I just read your book, it's like, oh, Fred is all about action, action, action. Can you tell us a little bit about the time for stillness, for contemplation, for inaction?
I think that because I'm basically a bold introvert, that there are a lot of time that I am alone, because as a writer, you have to spend time alone. But as a writer, you also have to learn to collaborate. You have to learn to work with an editor. You have to learn to let people read and critique your stuff. Otherwise, you're just writing for yourself. So there are times when I find myself racing in 2 or 3 directions, mentally or in terms of activity. And I've learned to give myself permission to just stop and say, let the roller coaster run without me for a while. And again, it's that same thing as acquiring patience, acquiring calmness, which, really understanding the power of breath and the power of meditation. I mean, I was lucky enough to learn meditation in the 70s, and it just, I can be in a situation, I could be on a loud bus, let's say, or a subway, and I can drop into a meditation in 30 seconds. Because I've done it so much, and that may only grab 5 or 10 minutes, but my appreciation for stillness came before my appreciation for boldness. And so it's always, and I've never thought about how that it's a nice stack to have, but I see a lot of people that are they're like in mad pursuit of everything, and they never stop for a moment of calmness or stillness or self-reflection. And it actually diminishes your creativity. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're not giving yourself the space to not think about your problems at some point almost every day, then you won't solve a lot of those problems. Because when you stop thinking about it, you say, I'm not gonna think about any of this stuff. I'm gonna just get some other input, or I'm gonna get no input. We live in a world of unlimited input. How many people, the last thing they do is, scroll through Instagram, and the first thing they do when they get up, they never stop with the input. I learned early the value of no input to create balance in life. And which is why, and the other thing that happens when you couple that with boldness, there's a humility that comes with being super bold, because you realize there's always more that you can do, and your awareness just constantly increases and you just say, okay, I experienced something. Now I can reflect on it. There's always something in the experience that requires reflection, whether you journal about it or you meditate on it or you have a coach that you talk to about it. That
Mm,
all of those things allow you the power of reflection instead of like constant forward motion and activity. A lot of times activity is a way to hide from self-awareness.
mm,
And if, you got to find out if that's what you're doing.
What you just said right there, that is a key nugget. I love that. Can you double click on that? Hiding
Yeah.
behind being busy, hiding behind activities, hiding behind, go, 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 go.
Hiding behind activity is a way of avoiding being self-aware or avoiding self-reflection.
Mm. Any specific personal stories or client stories that you can help illustrate that? Like and then let me contextualize this question a little bit, perhaps give you some time to think about this. Is overachievers like to consume input because they think more activities, more input equals better throughput.
Yeah.
Reality, it's the yin and the yang, right? You got to take action and then contemplate, rejiggle the mind and how you think about it, and then take new action accordingly, versus using the same mindset, keep taking the same action, then you're gonna just keep having the same results. If you want
Yeah.
to keep growing and up spiraling, contemplation and action to me it's a great way to think about the inhale and the exhale.
Yeah, and there's so many directions I can go with this. I remember this story of this very famous advertising guy from the '60s. His name is David Ogilvy,
Mm-hmm.
and he ran one of the most creative agencies
Mm-hmm.
in the '60s. And he had a little note that he kept in his pocket all the time, and the note said simply, "I might be wrong."
Mm.
And there's a lot of that, especially in this polarized world that we live in. When I'm in a conversation with somebody with pretty much the opposite political views, I'm willing to sit there and say, I might be wrong about how I see this. I want to know how you see it, rather than saying I've got all the answers about why you're not right. I want to know why you think that way. But I see a lot of people terrified of being wrong, of changing their minds. Look at how bad it is for a politician to flip-flop, right? It's like a career-ending thing. It's like, no, why don't I want a leader who can change his mind when he gets more information, when she
that is
learns
the
something
very
new?
that is the very definition of learning.
Yes, yes,
The very definition of learning and growth is you change your mind based on new data coming in.
yes, yeah. And all of science is based on that. It's like, this was true until we found out something that was more true or completely different.
That's right.
And so uh, I think it's so easy to ignore that very simple thing, that odds are you're not 100% right, whether you're arguing with your spouse or uh, are making recommendations on the stock market or something like that. Like, but people do it in politics and religion, the two things that are entirely based on beliefs. There's almost nothing factual about either of them. The things that people believe in their faith are beliefs. They're not facts. Okay. There is no video of Moses coming down with the Ten Commandments. So we believe that it happened, something like that, and that God inspired him. But it's all belief. It didn't. There's nothing factual about it. And when you say, oh, when George Bush does this, it's going to end America. It's like, you believe that, but it's not. There's nothing factual. And the worst thing is, when it turns out not to be true, people don't reflect on that and say, not only I might be wrong, I actually was wrong. They don't let the input in, because the confirmation bias has become such a strong feature of our society at this point. But that the liberating, and the other direction I could end up going into is how perfectionism keeps us from doing things. It's like, I can't, like, if I wanted to do stand-up comedy, I would say, no, I got to have 30 minutes of rock solid material before I'll take the stage.
Yeah, I got to be Dave Chappelle before I step onto stage from day one.
Which is, even Dave Chappelle doesn't do that. He says, I'm going to go up and try this half-finished joke and see if I can finish it. Right. That's how all those guys work. Chris Rock goes in at 1 a.m. into these New York clubs and tries stuff out. And over the course of a year, he develops 90 minutes of incredibly strong material. Perfectionism is an excuse for not acting. Until you, I don't want to do karaoke because I don't have a perfect voice. I haven't picked out the perfect song and practice it. Do these other people seem like they're practiced? They just had enough drinks where they're willing to try to get up and sing, an AC/DC song. It's, so perfectionism is a real trap. It's a trap for introverts. It's a trap for the unbold.
Yep. Great. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So let me ask you a pointed question there.
I'm
right?
CK and I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, I'm a recovering perfectionist. When I'm unconscious, I lean towards more preparation. My excuse is, let me rationalize. I got to prepare, right? And then I don't take enough action. So to me, there's a real polarity or tension there. And then for me, is to find the sweet spot in the middle, right? Preparation, enough preparation, but not too much. Enough action, but not too much, right? That's that synergy between the two. So what's your mental model about preparing, but not preparing too much, taking action, but not just foolish in taking action without updating your operating system? Does that make sense? How do you, find the sweet spot in the middle?
I have found that I like being somewhat unprepared. I don't like being not prepared is just dumb, right? And that's one of the steps. I have 5 steps to how you do your boldness exercises in my book. And the first step is preparation, but it's preparation to step in and probably be uncomfortable. It's preparation, knowing you could fail. In some of the exercises, it's preparation to deliberately fail, to just go so far into something that you're assuming this isn't going to work. And if it works, you're shocked and surprised and rewarded, but you're aiming for failure. But
interesting. Wait, hold on. So you're interesting. So you prepare enough knowing that you're underprepared, that you're most likely gonna fail. That's what you like.
I want the tension of being slightly unprepared. When I've done lectures that are 5 minutes to all day, and I prepare it, but it is not memorized. I want the discovery in the moment. I may let's say I see somebody in Starbucks that I want to go talk to. I am going to prepare what I'm going to go say to them. But in the moment, I could change that completely because my preparation has become my fallback, because I'm being bold. I'm saying in the moment, like, what else? I got this. I could say those are really, amazing earrings that you have. That's my prep. And I walk up and I notice she has amazing crystal blue eyes. Now I can go that way because I have the comfort of being prepared, but the tension of discovery. And I do that on stage all the time. And some of my best stuff happens on stage when I veer off script, or if I react to something in the audience. I love questions from the audience, and I'll go off on a tangent and I'll just say, does anybody know where the heck I was? And somebody knows. I love that, because I'll go off on, I'll get sparked on some tangent and I'll cover it, but I can't remember where I was in the lecture. And then somebody yells out, "Oh, you're talking about such and such." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Thank you." There's a know-it-all always in the audience. You
Yeah,
know,
you're
that's
co-creating with them rather than
yeah,
being the guru
yeah,
who knows
yeah.
everything, who says perfect things at
Well,
all
and
times.
that's a speaker technique as well. Is instead of knowing everything, have the audience tell you something you already know, because
Hmm.
it suddenly they're engaged. They're like, what? Whoa, I might know this. I got to think about this. Um,
Got it. So let me recap real quick. So what I'm taking away from what the point that you're making, you're not saying not to prepare. What I'm hearing is prepared, but don't be attached to whatever the point that you want to make. Leave room for spontaneity, from the miraculous, from the magical moments, from the in the moment decisions that shows up. That's my takeaway from the point that you're making. Is that correct?
yeah, preparation is the foundation for spontaneity.
Beautiful. Okay. Do you want to go through the pride altogether, or should we move forward?
Well, so that's one of those things. The next step is so the pride method is the systematic way that you build your boldness muscle and do a bunch of the exercises in the book, but also when you're in a moment of underconfidence, because we have situational confidence. We are confident in certain situations in our life, and we are underconfident in other situations, and it's different for everybody. You may be able to walk into a room and meet everybody in the room, and so you have situational confidence, but one-on-one you're too anxious maybe. And I've seen people like that there, and whereas the rest of the people go like, oh, a room full of people, that's totally intimidating. I like the one-on-one thing. So
Mm,
their situational confidence is everybody is different, and everybody's different. The idea of being super bold is to radiate confidence in every situation, to 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 know how to be bold even when you don't feel confident, because this is the great paradox: is you build your confidence by taking bold action and being
mhm,
bold,
mhm,
not waiting till you feel confident enough to be bold.
mhm,
It's the opposite of what people think. Well, I can't really do that, I don't feel confident enough. And I say that's why you're going to do it. to to build the boldness, because you're going to find out you didn't die, number one, and number two, you're going to get a little better at it
mhm.
by doing it, and then reflecting on it. And then what happens is your confidence expands. So the pride method is a 5-step process, which is preparation, which we talked about, and I obviously go into much more detail on it. Relaxing, which is understanding how to physically relax your body, because a lot of people don't have any idea how to do it, how to just release their physiology, like acknowledge the tension in their body and release it, and then just breathe. Trust the power of breath. A lot of people, they get anxious, they stop breathing, which I'm sure on the African plain was very helpful when the saber-toothed tiger was stalking us. Is our reflex is don't breathe. Very not helpful in social situations or social anxiety situations. You need air, you need oxygen. But when you really do it, and I talk about vibrating the vagus nerve and all of that stuff. There's great techniques to almost instantaneously relax yourself. And when you relax yourself, you suddenly realize you can relax yourself. Just like when you notice you're nervous, you go, oh crap, I'm nervous, makes you more nervous, right? It
Mhm.
spirals up. But as soon as you apply any technique to relax yourself, you say, wow, I'm actually in control of my state. I can relax myself, which relaxes you more.
What's your go-to relaxation technique? If you, let's say, meeting whoever and then you notice you're nervous, what's your go-to technique to come
Uh,
back to regulate?
my number one technique is my physiology, because I notice I'm doing something. I'm like, my body language is radiating how anxious I am, and I'll just shake it down. Like I'll just release it.
Mm,
If I'm going on stage and it's like 5,000 people, and I'm going, wow, this is intense. This is a big crowd here.
mhm, mhm,
I'll just do 3 deep breaths before I go on stage, and I'll
mhm,
just feel the settling, and then and now I'm just energized. It's like, get me out there.
mm,
And
mm,
any nervousness is now turned into power.
mm. Mm.
And so, but if you really, the vagus breath, vibrating the vagus nerve, which runs all down the center of your body and controls a lot of your autonomic nervous system. If you just take 3 breaths and let them out slowly, going ha, and vibrating that nerve, I'm abbreviating it, but you do that, you'll be amazed at how much more relaxed you are in about 45 seconds, just doing that 3 times. Because you've taken control of your autonomic nervous system at that moment. And nobody teaches you that. Nobody taught me that in high school. I was just nervous all the time. Relaxing.
Actually, can I share a couple of techniques since you're on that point
sure,
that may or may not be useful? So one thing that I do is similar to you, activate the physiology. But then I'll push against the wall. But I'll visualize I'm giving away all of my nervousness, all of my tension into the wall or into the ground. So that way it actually helps me not only relax my physiology, but also there's a meaning associated with it. And then that was very helpful to me whenever I can notice myself being nervous.
Yeah, well, and one of the funny things they tell speakers is just imagine you're naked on stage. And it's like, that doesn't work. That's a terrible thing to do. Imagine everybody else is naked. That might work. That might relax you. But
another thing is there's a plant medicine called Mumbai. I don't know if you ever had that before, but it's a very relaxing, has a very relaxing effect. It's non-psychoactive. It's just a very relaxing effect on the body. So you may want to give that a shot.
Yeah. And when you create those things, you create a trigger effect of like, oh, I am relaxing myself. The first sip of that, your body says, oh, I know what to do. I'm going to relax, which is what you want. You want to start triggering that rather than triggering anxiety or nervousness.
So that's relaxation. What's the third?
Insights. And we talked about some of them, but it's like having insights about yourself and social interaction. The big insight that bold people know is that people are not thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are. They're thinking about themselves. And so we think everybody's thinking about this and they remember that. And we carried this embarrassment around for 15 years. And the people who are there going, I don't remember that. But, you can still relive it and still feel the embarrassment. They're not thinking about you. Stop worrying. Bold people have a handful of people whose opinions really matter to them. And then everybody else is a 0 or a 1, unless they're a potential customer or somebody that they want to influence or that they are looking for some value from. It should be your family, your spouse, your best friends, and your mentors, your coaches. Those opinions should matter. The rest of the people, why, when people say, oh, they're all going to laugh at me, I say, do you know them? Why would you care? Bold people say, other people's opinions of me are none of my business. And they proceed on. And the more you can do that, the more you realize that you're attaching yourself to people who are having judgments about you, just like you're having about them. Remember, I talked about this. Are their judgments about you accurate? How could they possibly be accurate just by looking at you or hearing the first thing you say? This could be the worst day of their life or the worst day of my life. And there's no reason to try to assess who I am by that. So, and the other insight we talked about is nothing bad happens unless you decide to label it that way. Like we talked about things on stage. So what were you going to say?
I was going to say, one quote from Dr. Seuss was super helpful to me, and paraphrase, those that matter won't mind, those that mind won't matter. Yes. So I really appreciate that thought, and as continuing being a way to remind myself to really speak my mind, to our earlier point. And obviously it takes skill to continue to do that more skillfully, but that's the source of it. Just really, 7 billion people on earth, most of them won't agree with me. That's okay. What's more important is to find my tribe and then really speak my mind to my fullest potency and authenticity. And those that resonates with my vibration, with my energy, will come to me and say, hey, I really like what you said.
And I train people in speaking, and one of the things I say is, whenever I have an audience, 5% of them will think I'm a complete idiot, and 5% of them will think I'm the most brilliant person they've ever heard. They're both wrong. Right? But they will exist. I will never change either of them. I'm working on the people who are open to some sort of insight or interpretation. And actually, if I get 10% of them to have an insight, that's home run for me. The rest of them, they weren't ready for it. It'll hit them later, or it'll never hit them, or it won't matter. I'm not getting everybody. I'm not getting anywhere near everybody. If one person comes up to me at the end and said, I've waited all my life to hear this, I get it now. I get what I'm doing wrong with my life now. That's all. The other 1,000 people, I hope they got something, but I'm paid off. I'm golden. So that, and those, and there's more insights I talk about in the book, but understanding people's opinions and understanding that nothing bad happens unless you decide to label it that way. Will transform your boldness, because you don't have to label that bold move going wrong as wrong. It's just a step up. Bold people look at failures as a step up. It's just information. And that's a powerful transformation. Then dosage is the D in the Pride method. Really important is controlling the intensity of the experience. All of life is about dosage. Take 1 aspirin, headache goes away. Take 100 aspirin, you're dead, right? you can die from drinking too much water.
That's right.
Which is essential to staying alive, and we're 80% water.
That's right.
But everything socially, physically is about dosage. If you're exercising, if you work out, if you do curls with 3 pounds, you're never going to get any stronger. You have to go to strain. But if you try to do a bench press with 300 pounds and you've never lifted before, it's going to fall on your chest cavity and crush you. So there's the dosage is everywhere in life, and it is everywhere in boldness as well, as building your boldness muscle. You start simply. You start by smiling at people. You start then by talking to strangers. You start then by having a small conversation, never being concerned about the outcome, so that when it matters, which is what my training is all about, is so that you radiate confidence when it matters. You take bold action when it matters, because there will be windows of opportunity in your life, and we hesitate, and the window closes and it never opens again. And those very often are pivotal moments in our lives. Meeting that key person, accepting, quitting that job, asking for a divorce, whatever the hell it is, asking for a raise, starting a business, abandoning the business because the marketplace says we're not interested. All these are all bold choices that we make, but we have to build the boldness muscle to take the action.
So quick question there. I love that you mentioned when it matters, right? When the window of opportunity opens, that's really why we go to the gym. I think in one of your previous podcast interviews, you mentioned you don't go to the gym just in case, a 300-pound something, that you need
happens
to
to be on your chest and you need to get it off your chest.
You do it for the moment when there's something functional that happened, you need to lift 300 pounds. So that's a great way to think about it. So quick question, double clicking on that. For the overachievers, they look at Fred and say, Fred said he can speak in front of 5,000 people. And right now I have social anxiety. Let me make a quote unquote big, hairy, audacious goal of speaking in front of 5,000 people. And they try to do 5,000 people first shot. And guess what? Oh, debilitated by this anxiety,
overdose.
Right? Yep. Overdose. I'm such a failure. Let me
Yeah.
just not think about
That
speaking
was
forever and
humiliating,
ever. That's
embarrassing,
right. That's right.
traumatic. I got PTSD about speaking for the rest of my life.
That's right.
That's
So in terms of setting goals, quote unquote, are you in the camp of big, hairy, audacious goals, or are you more in the incremental, hey, go to wherever you're at and stretch yourself accordingly, and then stretch yourself all the way up to 5,000? What's your mental model when you think about setting appropriate goals so they don't
I'm in
overdose?
both camps.
Uh-huh.
I believe in big, hairy, audacious goals, but don't believe for a second that just say I'm going to speak and get up and do a affirmation every morning and say I'm going to be speaking in front of 5,000 people
Mm-hmm.
is going to make you capable of speaking in front of 5,000 people. You are going to have to build up.
Mm-hmm.
You could say my audacious goal is I'm going to run an ultra marathon. If you just don't do anything and then just wait till the one is scheduled, you're not going to finish. Okay. You're not even going to get close to finishing an ultra. You probably won't finish the 26.1 miles of a regular marathon without falling down and dying, pretty much. But so I'm about like have audacious goals, believe you can make a huge impact on the world, but know that it starts with the first building that step. Just like speaking, you start by that's Toastmasters brilliant for teaching you how to speak, because you start speaking to a group of people that are all there encouraging you, and you're doing a 5-minute talk. Nobody's going to hire you to do a 5-minute talk, but you're controlling the dosage so it doesn't overwhelm you. So you go 5, that was easy. I can do 10. I can do 15. I'm getting better at this. I'm feeling comfortable. I'm not tongue tied anymore. I've done lectures totally unprepared, 3-hour lectures. They said, we don't want you to do the topic you're talking about. Can you just do questions? Yeah, I'll do 3 hours of questions. Because I've done it. I haven't done, I didn't start by saying, I don't think I need to do a lecture. I'm just going to answer questions. And the audience goes, well, we don't have any questions. So now what? So the controlling the dosage of the experience to build that boldness muscle till you're strong when it matters, because it will matter. There will be times when it matters and you do not want to hesitate. Hesitation is the opportunity killer.
So say more about that. So self-doubt, hesitation in a moment when a very attractive woman or a man walks by and you want to have a quick moment of connection. I don't know if you ever experienced that moment passed and then you go, ah, man, should have done
Oh
it.
yeah, I
Right.
have lost track. I mean, that was one of the primary motivators for becoming boulders. I said, like, I can't miss any more of these opportunities, because what you'll stand there and say, I want to go talk to her. I want to go meet her. And you stand there long enough and somebody else walks over and talks to her. That's me now. I'm the one who walks over and talks to her while you're still thinking about it. But what happens is you've built up in her mind that she's the most amazing person in the world and she could be your potential wife or whatever the heck it is that you're telling yourself. So you've made it almost impossible to be relaxed, and you're wrong about the odds of her being that person are like 1,000 to 1. So what you should do, to the dosage is talk to anybody in the room. Talk to whatever woman you see in the room. Just walk up and introduce yourself to her. I pick out the wallflower in the room now. The person who's looking at the books or looking at the albums or the album covers or whatever, or staring at the food buffet endlessly. I just go introduce myself to them, because I used to be them. I want to pull them out and start introducing them to people and stuff. But you start with that simple increment so that you realize that your hesitation is the problem, that you don't have to be confident. You just have to go. If you walk up to her, you got to say something. It's probably going to be wrong, but you're going to get better at it. And it doesn't matter, because she's not the perfect person anyway. You're trying to get good at that, because when the perfect person does happen to be there, you walk over and you've got game. You talk like a normal person and have a normal conversation with her, rather than I really need to get to know you. You're so gorgeous or whatever. It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, your agenda is really clear. You're desperate. But and that, obviously it's a great example, because it's you want to be able to, this is one of the great things about boldness, is to be able to meet anybody you want to meet. Doesn't necessarily mean, like, for dating it's valuable, but if you're already married, it's not valuable. But if you're looking for to find somebody, you want to expose yourself to a bunch of, now that's the wrong term, but I mean, you want to meet a variety of people, so that when that person comes along that you might actually have a great connection with, you can have a normal conversation. But you see somebody really interesting that you want to meet. Maybe it's Sir Richard Branson, maybe it's Jeff Bezos, maybe it's Ken Rutkowski, whatever it is. You see somebody and you say, I want to go talk to him. And instead of playing the unworthiness tape, which is what everybody does, right? He doesn't want to talk to me. I'm not interesting enough. I'm not successful enough. We got the 50 things we tell ourselves about why we should be hesitating. The bold person walks over and says, hey, I really think you're doing amazing stuff with Amazon, but I'm waiting for the drones. I want the drones. And Bezos goes, the drones are coming, buddy. The drones are coming. And he's like, just, are you a Prime member? Well, yeah, I'm a Prime member. Of course I'm a Prime member, and away you go, having a conversation. And I have met people I have admired incredibly and been able to let them know how much I admired them without being a drooling fan, and had a really interesting conversation with them almost always, or just did a drive-by compliment. I've met actors that I really admire that I just was able to walk up and say, I just wanted to tell you how much I admire your work. I don't want to disturb you or draw attention to you, but I really appreciate all the work you've done. And if you don't know their name, don't do that, because there's nothing more insulting than going up to an actor and going like, what's your name? You're that guy. And I was like, get the hell away from those people, right? That's, like, if you don't know their name, don't go up to them. Don't ask them who they are. Don't say, you're that guy that was on Seinfeld once. What's your name? No, don't do that.
Yeah.
That means you don't have permission to walk up to them. That's basically what you need to know.
Yeah. So. The intention is different. Paying acknowledgement versus trying to get associated with that level.
Well, yeah, and which is why. And every time I've met any of these people that I really wanted to meet, I have never asked for a selfie. You know why? Because a selfie is just pretending you know them to all your friends, which you don't. But they're polite enough to stand next to you and smile. You're not buddies. They didn't give you their number. Okay, so why we're looking at FaceTime and going like, oh, look at who he met. That's amazing. Like, no, it's not amazing. The person was just being nice.
It was so I met Ken back in 2012 when I was at the TED conference, and being at the TED conference was a great teaching moment for me, because I get to sit right next to Larry Page, and then Seth Godin and Jeff Bezos, all those people. And it was really cool. I'm saying this not because I'm dropping names. I'm saying this because it's really cool to watch how human they are. Let's say at a regular party place, when there's nothing going on, what people typically do is they just play with their drinks and standing very awkwardly by themselves.
Yeah.
And that's normal people. And then guess what? Those people, they do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just human,
so you
like
could just walk up to them and talk to them.
Yeah, just they're as awkward, and perhaps even more so, because they're all nerds and geeks, growing up. So it was really cool to actually like just humanizes these people that I admire for the work that they do, and then be normal with them.
Yeah, and these people, all of these people, they may have worked really hard at something, but they got lucky. They found, the right thing at the right time. and then worked it hard, but they still struggle. I mean, Bezos has the most spectacular divorce in history, So, richest man in the world for a while, and somehow can't stay married. So it's again, we're all just human beings trying to find our way, and give everybody the space to do that, and it will make a huge difference, instead of judging like crazy.
Is boldness experiments? Because primarily what we've been talking about is meeting people and having human interactions. Do they transfer to other things? So let's say I develop boldness muscle in interacting with people. Does that translate to my starting a business or having a podcast, whatever the thing that meeting the right partner in life? Does it?
Well, we talked about speaking. It takes boldness to say I want to be a speaker. It takes boldness to write a book and say, look, I think I can create something that people will want to read. It takes boldness to start a business, to say I'm going to take these risks. I mean, if you decide to play it safe your entire life, is that really what you want on your tombstone? He played it as safe as possible every day. I want to have tried stuff and succeeded at some of it, and knowing that I was going to fail at some of it. But I didn't miss an opportunity because, I could fail at that. I was lucky enough to be bold in terms of adrenaline sort of stuff, and I was able to translate it and say, like, I'm not afraid to bungee jump. Why am I afraid to get on stage? And just say it's all in my head. And so whatever you're doing in life, whatever you're pursuing in life, if there isn't an element of risk, that you're walking in that zone where it's like, I'm not safe, I'm not ideal for this, and I don't have all the skills yet for this, that's how you get somewhere. Nobody who started a business runs that business exactly the way they started it. There's no way that happens, because the marketplace is going to tell you what it wants, and you're going to have to adjust to that marketplace, and probably every year or two or three. I mean, you and I have grown up in an era where businesses that seemed like they would last forever are going down the drain, like General Electric or something. Like, who could imagine that General Electric stock would be a bad buy, 5 years ago? But I mean, this is the cycle of life. Is, we take risks, and the more risks you take, the more payoffs you get, and it takes boldness to take risks. By definition, there's no guarantee that it's going to work.
That's true. How do you evaluate risk tolerances and real risk that may end, result in real death, or death of a relationship or company, whatever the thing is, versus risk that's made up by the mind? Because you're not advocating just being foolish and, hey, there's a cliff, and you jump off the cliff. Right?
It's a different thing. When you're starting a business, you have to protect your downside risk. You have to get as much help as you can to create and launch this business, this product or service, without just saying, oh, I think everybody's going to love this, I'm just going to make this widget, even though I don't know where I'm going to make it, but I'm going to raise $100,000 from my family, and then I'm going to see if I can pull it off. No, that takes real preparation. You don't want to learn on somebody else's dime how to run a business, unless you're willing to do whatever it takes to make that business. The thing that two things that make business person successful: hunger and persistence. And the persistence comes from the hunger. It's like, I got to make this work. I am hungry to make this work. And also, I'm committed to make this work. You know, when I started my business, we got to the point where we had signed personally on so much debt that we had to make it work. You know, because when you start a business, you sign personally on the lease, 5-year lease. Doesn't matter if the business lasts 2 years, you're still paying the lease personally, or you're going personally bankrupt. So we had all of this stuff saying, we got to figure it out. So a lot of it is just committing. The boldness is saying, I am going to do whatever it takes to succeed. The world's going to stop me. I'm not going to stop me.
Was there ever a moment where you questioned, the faith on yourself or, God or, your community, your co-founders, where it was tested, where you almost lost your faith?
I was naive enough at the beginning to think I could do it no matter what. And then by a certain point, after surviving enough near-death experiences of the business, you realize how that most likely you can pull out of it. Just by showing up every day, not like saying, oh, this is, worrying about it gets you done. It gets nothing done. So when you say, I'm going to work the problem, I'm going to work this problem this day. And it got to the point where we said, we're just going to keep showing up and trying to solve this crisis. And you solve enough of them and you say, wow, we will figure it out. I don't know how, but we will get up every morning together and figure it out. So there was never a moment of despair where I had to say, am I crazy here? Like, should I be abandoning ship? And I mean, we got in some serious tight spots, 4 or 5 of them over the years, with some litigation and with over investing during the .com boom. We got $6 million in debt and we couldn't pay all of these TV stations. But we had a relationship with them that we said, look, we will absolutely pay you. It just won't be on time. And they trusted us because we had a 10-year relationship with these stations. But it's all just, and hey, sometimes the business tanks. The marketplace shuts you down or a competitor tramples over you, and you just, it's information to start again some other way.
I love that. That's a very, very Zen, very Taoist philosophy. Just trusting the flow. No, that's a beautiful thing to hear. I mean, part of the things that we talk about here on Noble Warrior a lot is plant medicine, and it allows the dissipation of these illusions, the limiting beliefs that we have ourselves, and hence why I was asking the question, because when we hear people talk about their ups and downs of their business or relationship or personal health or whatever the thing is, it's we always are met with when our character is being tested. So hence that question of how you were able to continue to choose the right path, even though you were seriously tested by the circumstances or certain things like that.
Well, in business, you eventually figure out there's no such thing as making the right decision or thinking about it long enough to always make the right decision. You decide and make the decision work. And sometimes it doesn't. But there's no way that you're going to guarantee success. You have to try. You got to step up. You got to let the door lock behind you. You got to burn the boats in the harbor, whatever metaphor you want. You got to jump off the high board, whatever it is, and hope there's water in the pool and flap your arms on the way down. That it's the beauty of life is risk.
Say more about that. That's beautifully said. Say more about that.
We pursue comfort as a goal, whereas comfort is where you restore yourself. It's like going to sleep at night so you wake up energized and can go through your day. Comfort is not the goal. It's a place. It's a launching pad for going out and taking risks and chasing your dreams. However, and they don't have to be big dreams. You could just say, my dream is to be the best parent, the best friend, the best speaker, the best crossing guard, whatever the heck it is. You as long as you're doing everything you can to be your best, there's going to be risk in that. There's going to be frustration in that. But all of life is, it's just getting to the point and saying, this is life. Life is polarity. Life is good and bad. And I can appreciate the great stuff because some incredibly shitty things have happened to me. If I was comfortable all the time, I wouldn't know any joy.
Mm-hmm.
I would just know safety.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is in almost everyone's life is that they discover that whatever security and safety they created is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Something will dissipate it at some point, and we're all going to die. So,
mm-hmm.
And we don't know when. This is,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I try to tell people more than anything. It's hard to tell young people because they feel like they're going to live forever. But I say, like, we're all in this game of life, but we don't know how long the coach is going to let us play.
Mm-hmm.
So play full out,
Mm-hmm.
every day, and use comfort as a place to restore yourself, not to say, I just want to be comfortable and safe all the time, because the real joy comes from challenging yourself, pushing yourself, discovering things, rolling with the bad to discover what the good is on the other side.
Mm.
Even if a tiny example of this, but it just happened to me. I got delayed on a connecting flight, and thunderstorms and everything. They decided to cancel the flight, and I had to spend the night in Washington, D.C. instead of going to Nashville, where I was supposed to be going. And they couldn't get me out till 5:00 the next day. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm missing the whole first day of this seminar that I paid dearly for. And I ended up, working on a whole bunch of stuff for the workshop in my hotel, and then went out to Starbucks, saw this really interesting woman, just walked over and said hi to her, just told her how, great and summery she looked or something like that. 45 minutes later, I finally leave after this conversation. I am so grateful that American Airlines canceled my flight, because it was worth it to meet her. She was just an amazing person, and we had an amazing conversation. So instead of saying my life sucks, American Airlines sucks, I miss this, and it's like, what's here to discover? How do I put myself in a new risky situation to see what I can discover?
Yeah.
That's where the joy in life comes from.
I so appreciate that story. Thank you so much. I mean, I literally put myself in situations to have serendipitous moments like that. Is engineer serendipity, right? Things like Burning Man or plant medicine ceremonies and things like that.
Yeah.
You're a burner too, no? If I recall correctly.
No, I have never been.
What? Oh my gosh,
I
Fred.
know it always
You will
falls
love
in the
it.
wrong way. Oh, I know. It's
You
just,
will love it.
we have dental conventions at exactly the same time. It's ridiculous.
Well, luckily you're no longer in the dental industry
I
anymore.
can do what I want.
You can do what you want. It is happening. Well, we can take it offline, but
yeah.
so okay, let's talk about being bold on the internet, because you went from direct marketing, direct response, right, 1-800 dentist, to now building a personal brand as a executive coach, as an author. We can use the internet to be bold. So what are some of the ways that we can be bolder on the internet? Because, case in point, some people really speak their mind and create polarized reactions, and boom, they went viral. So the opportunity to receive attention on the internet is there. So what are some of the ways that we can be more bold, to be ourselves, and also attract the kind of the right tribe, the audience that resonates with who we really are? Any suggestions on being bold on the internet?
You have to get comfortable talking to camera. A lot of people, that's really hard for them to make a video. There's other people that it's really easy, and obviously they become big influencers with just showing people how to put on makeup or something like that. But more and more, the video is becoming the medium that everybody pays attention to. So you're going to have to figure out how you can express yourself talking to a camera, and you're going to suck at it. Okay. You're going to put out stuff, or you're going to think, oh, this might work out well, or I keep trying it and it's nothing I ever want to put out, but work at it every day. But we didn't mention the E in the Pride method, which is everyday action. Everyday action. If something's important to you to achieve, work on it every day. Get to it every day. I don't want to belabor this point too much, but this is a life skill. If it matters, get to it. If you love your wife, do something charming, romantic, complimentary every day. If you want to get good at piano, play 5 minutes every day. Learn a language, 5 minutes every day. It will aggregate. And your brain says, I guess we're going to do this. And you won't need the willpower to start it. You won't have to tap that, because you're just going to do it. But your boldness muscle will build when you get to it every day. Make a bold action every day. And it relates to what we were just talking about. So, because what you do every day matters.
I love it. What's your new super bold habit that you're doing these days?
It is, it relates directly to this. It is in building my personal brand. I am trying to do at least 1 TikTok a day, but ideally 3. And nobody's following it. Nobody's looking at it. Nobody cares, but it's where the puck is going. And I want to be, instead of being behind it and trying to do Facebook now, where people are abandoning it by the millions, is like, how do I get good at this medium and understand how that medium is evolving? Because it's constantly, all of these mediums evolve. And now I'm saying the word mediums, which is not correct. It makes me crazy. Mediums are those people with the funny hats that can look at a crystal ball. So, I got you. But that's what I'm doing. As I'm telling people, you got to get good at video. I've done tons of video courses and things like that, and podcasts and webinars, but really short stuff. It's a new skill for me.
Short form video. Yep. Yeah. That's where you get trained on TikTok.
But if you have to do it every day, then you say, what happens is, in the back of your mind, you're working on it. So you discover something in the course of the day, because your brain says, I guess we got to do this today. So something pops up. If you do it when you say, I'm going to do a video when I think of a really good one, you know what? You'll do like 3 a year. But if you got to do 1 every day, you'll do 360, and 10 of them will be interesting. But next year, 50 of them will be interesting. And the year after, 100.
So you're prepared to devote this a TikTok video a day for 5 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Who knows if 5 years is too long? It'll be TikTok could be gone by then.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you're honing your skill to tell short form stories, right?
Yep.
Hey, for those that are eager to get Fred's book, you go to genie.us /S Superbold, Genius Superbold. That's where you can get directly linked to his book. Fred, before I acknowledge you to close off, is there any last word, any last question, any last topic that I hadn't asked you that you really wanted to say to our people?
I always like to end with the thought that the only person you need permission from to have the life you want is you. The only person you need permission from to have the most exciting, adventurous, pain-filled, love-filled, challenging, satisfying life. The only person you need permission from is you. Don't wait for somebody else to give you permission.
Wise words. Hey, Fred. I didn't say this in the very beginning, but I actually read your Everything is Marketing book.
Oh,
And
wow.
I looked at 1-800-Dentist as a model when I was thinking about my first business. That business didn't go anywhere because,
Wow.
the internet happened, all these things, the cost per leads were too high, but 1-800-Dentist was a model for me to look at. So I actually am familiar with your work, and it's so cool to talk to you after, was it 10 years or
Yeah.
so when I was studying that. So, and thank you for your sincerity, for your earnestness to really make a difference in people so that they can be more bold and make that transformation from being someone who is socially anxious to someone who is uber confident, super bold, and
Yes.
really being out there and creating the life that they deserve. So thank you so much for being here on Noble Warrior.
Thanks for having me, CK.
Beautiful. With that said, let's complete